ourselves this whole time.
I'm
trying to make sure we appear. Yay, okay, I think this is working now. Let me pull up the chat. Yay, there we are. Okay, we've got the questions. We did it. Look, Ma, we made it. Hi, guys. Welcome to another Patreon live stream. You guys know who I am, but let me introduce you to our amazing guests today. Do you guys want to just introduce yourselves? Say no you, but
hi, I'm Briggon. Hi.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Lauren Shippen. I created the bright sessions with my mind.
He did. He did all of it himself.
I fooled you. I'm Jordan Cope, and I wrote a thing with Briggon.
Yes. Yeah. You guys wrote patient number 7, Austin. Patient number 7, right? That was the number.
That was 8.
8. It is 8. It is 8.
Or something.
Yep. It is patient number 8. Keeping track of all these numbers has been a challenge.
Should have brought Julia. She knows.
She knows. Yeah, and I wanted to bring you guys on because we didn't get to do a live stream in September. We didn't do any live streams in September because I was in London for most of September. And talk to you guys about your episode and how exactly all of that happened and writing it. And we've got some questions for you guys, and I'm sure people in the chat will also have questions. Kevin, I just waved instantly when I saw you because I'm dumb. Hi, Kevin. I did the same thing. Or like I'll nod when I'm on the phone.
Yeah, Lauren has got stuck in her apartment for hours trying to shake the hand of her own reflection. Punching through the window. Shake my hand.
Why won't you?
Why don't you love me?
Well, first of all, I should explain how we know you, maybe, because it's a fun thing for our patrons to know.
That's true.
So Jordan and I recently celebrated our 1-year anniversary of being friends, actually.
That's true, yeah.
Because we met at PatreonCon, Patreon's conference, last fall, because Jordan actually works for Patreon. So he helps make all of this happen. And he's also a very cool person who's making very cool things, which we'll get into if you guys are down to talk about.
Absolutely.
Arcs, a little bit later, if you're cool with that.
I've never had an issue talking too much.
Okay, great. and then Jordan.
Go Jordan. Thanks, Kevin.
Go Jordan. Yeah.
And nobody else.
And then we became friends, and then we started making a thing together. And then when Briggon brought this idea forward for Austin, it seemed like it aligned with a lot of the stuff that we'd have been talking about, that you were wanting to get more into storytelling.
Yeah, I pretty much, I don't even know how we started that conversation. One thing that me and Lauren and Briggon all reference a lot is that our friendship has developed a lot faster than it should have.
Yes.
Like, the level of access we've had to one another has been pretty limited. I moved to LA
2 weeks ago?
Yeah, 3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
maybe. But I lived in San Francisco, and we would hang out sporadically, mostly online.
Yeah.
In fantasy realms with D&D. And it developed so quickly that when I came down here and we met up again, I was like, has it? It's been a year. Really?
Yeah.
It feels like 10 and 1.
Yeah.
A day and then 10 years.
It feels like 1 month and also 9 years.
Yes.
It's very strange. Well, yeah, maybe we should start there with arcs and if you're cool to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this would be,
So back in March, Jordan texted me and said, hey, I've got an idea for a thing that I'd love to talk to you about. Can we talk on the phone? And I was in Austin at the time for South by Southwest. And so I remember exactly where I was in Austin Airport when I had this conversation with you.
We were both in transit. I was sitting outside my favorite Phil's coffee.
Yes, yeah. And you pitched me the idea for arcs. Do you want to explain?
Yeah. So we can even rewind a little bit further to the original Austin conversation, because that was a big part of it, kind of. You'd reached out to me. We weren't talking specifically about Austin at this point, but we had just gotten into this conversation because this friendship grew too fast, frankly. And we got into a conversation about how we wanted to do something.
Yeah.
We were obviously deep in, I think, like episode 48 or 49 of Bright Sessions at the time.
Yeah.
And we sort of heads down, mode on, booking studio time. I was like, I want to do that. Like, I love working for Patreon, and I love what I do, but I have this portion of my life that isn't fulfilled. I want to take my weekends and my evenings, and I'm going to start putting them into creative stuff, whatever that is, hopefully storytelling. And that just sort of percolated for a little while. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, okay, I have to get Lauren. I have to like attain her. Because she's very good at things. And there's no way she would want to work with a scrub like me unless I pushed very hard. So I gave you that call and we talked about how I really wanted to found a D&D podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I have some D&D experience. I've played as a PC a lot, but very little DM experience. But I like improv, I like comedy, and the show I do with another friend of ours, Jarvis, Sad Boys, is a very quick on your feet, say the thing, what the hell happened, stick with it, now it's canon. That's the mindset.
Yeah.
So I wanted to flex that a little more. I also wanted to get into a space where we could tell more dramatic stuff. I feel like I have very little bandwidth in my day-to-day for either not strategic business things or comedy. There's no little drama or tears. I want more tears in my life. So on instinct, I thought Lauren would make me cry.
Yep, that's fair.
So I was like, hey, I don't know what it is, but I know I want to do a role-playing thing.
Yeah.
And if you have anybody in mind that would be good for that, that would be amazing. And you say, yes, I have people in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then we separate for a little while. And we reconvene when you reach out to me.
Yeah.
I've been dominating this story. Do you want to tell us something?
No, you're good.
No. It's good to get all the different perspectives. Then we'll move to Briggon's side of all of it. We'll see if they line up. Your stories are straight.
They happen in different years. Well, it was
back in 2014.
It was the prehistoric era. I was hunting a dinosaur, which did exist alongside humans.
Mm-hmm, yep.
But yeah, Lauren then reached back out to me a couple weeks later and was like, hey, BTW, would you be interested in doing a writing project? You did not give me the title of the thing. So I thought it was maybe just
did I
exercise or anything.
Oh, interesting.
She was assigning you homework.
I think
like a writing assignment.
Yeah.
Here's some homework for you, Jordan.
That's what we made. So you reached out to me and I was like, yeah, anything, immediately. And I was walking out past my favorite films again. I seem to just spend all the time there. And you reached out and I got excited. And you mentioned that Briggon, somebody at this point I had not met, we missed each other at PodCon and other events, just somehow did bump into one another.
That's right.
Yeah.
You guys hadn't met in person yet.
Or talked at all.
Because I've been thinking this was after you joined ARCS that you guys started writing together, but it was before.
Well, kind of. It was like
it was simultaneous. Yeah. Because I think I maybe had said I'll think of some people. I think I had been like, oh, well, just Briggon has to do everything that I do. Otherwise, I have separation anxiety.
So two things happened. The first time me and Briggon communicated at all, and I'm including email. We had not even exchanged an email. We had a phone call.
Yeah.
I was at home. You were at home, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know why we always have to provide the location.
Just so you know. Wait, and speaking of locations, a quick pause. We are actually not streaming from my place. Some people are wondering because they probably don't recognize anything. We're actually streaming from Jordan's, and the cat is his. And sadly, I've already had my heart broken by Diva because she actually likes me, and I'm allergic to cats. So it's a love that can never be.
Yeah.
And Briggon is also allergic to cats.
Yeah.
So. But yes, we are streaming from Jordan's place, which might nothing looks familiar. But sorry, continue.
Well, the first conversation we ever had was a balmy summer's evening. I remember it. Some month. And we had a conversation where three things happened. One, we realized that we liked one another. Two, he was just playing with some coffee in the background. That'll be a fun acoustic experience. Two, we agreed that we wanted to write this episode of Bright Session together, which was your premise for us, not some of your idea. And then three, we confirmed that you wanted to be on the D&D podcast.
Yeah.
And then we hung up.
Yeah. And got into sort of our typical feedback loop of excitement that has been pretty characteristic of our relationship.
That's really why I wanted to put you guys together, because I was like, there's an energy that both of you have that I feel like you either are going to get along splendidly or you're going to have to kill one another. I'm not sure which it's going to be. And I'm glad that it was the former, not the latter.
We tried the latter.
That explains that one time that my apartment was just covered in blood.
No, we're both too good at fighting. So we would punch somebody, they'd fly off the cliff, and in the river, like Black Panther, Briggon would return and he goes, I never yielded. And then he would do the same to me, and he sort of
keep going. But yeah, Briggon, do you want to talk about this script and how it was initially? So to give a little background, I think I've maybe mentioned this on other live streams, but basically the way that I've been going about these bonus episodes is I have the list of patients that are available and what ability they have, and I've just been giving writers that list and saying these ones are available, and people have been picking them. And I think I kind of gave you that list being like, I think you should do this one.
You actually gave me the power
before the list. Okay.
You were like, so I was thinking about this. I was like, oh, that sounds great. What were the other ones you were thinking of? And then I heard the other ones. I was like, no, I want to.
Yeah, I think I just like knew. I just sort of decided to make this for you. Yeah. But I also knowing that like that's the one that maybe you would have resonated with.
Yeah.
So you were assigned invisibility as the power.
Yeah. We kind of talked initially. I remember we were walking through West Hollywood. It was a night after like a dinner, and you brought it up, and I got like super choked up and excited that you wanted me to be part of this process. And I remember you saying, kind of like a youngish guy, but not Caleb Young or anything like that. And immediately I was thinking of stuff, and I think it was very soon after. Lauren knows this of me. I kind of get all my creative stuff out by building decks. Yeah. Like I love putting like mood pictures and just writing out like bullet points and stuff. And James, my fiance, is mixed race, half Korean, and I thought it would be an interesting jumping off point to deal with the issues that he grew up with and deals with on a day-to-day basis, but sort of tell it through the prism of invisibility. And talk to Lauren about it, and she told me about Jordan, and I was like, oh, this would be an amazing opportunity to work with Jordan because I knew that he was interested. So it was like an easy excuse to be like, yeah, let's just do this thing together.
Yeah, it was like a nice
rope you in.
Combination of things happening all at once, like all these different conversations kind of happening within a couple weeks of each other.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, arcs to Austin all together, and very early on realized that Jordan was the kind of friend and collaborator that I could text in all caps at about 12:30 a.m.
Yeah,
and he would respond in all caps, and we would just go back and forth. Like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we did this? So good. So it came from a place of just
you asleep?
No, yeah, exactly.
Also, for a little bit of like outsider perspective, the three of us have a group chat, but then obviously we have like friendships with each other individually. And in like the first like month of you guys collaborating together, I was getting so many texts from you guys individually, just being like, "Briggon's awesome, Jordan's awesome." And I'm like, I know, you're welcome.
Yeah. So it was a great start to it, and we aligned on like how we saw the character, and we had a shared script document that we were both working off of, and it was a really great process.
Yeah, it was, and then you guys were both able to be there for recording, which is awesome.
That was so inspiring.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. To be honest, that recording is a big part of the reason I moved to LA.
We got him.
Like being in that room. Well, they wouldn't let me leave. That's the main reason.
We trapped him. We locked him in the studio.
They took my passport, which I don't need to fly domestically. They took it anyway. Don't know whether they did
you can't go home ever again.
When we were in that room and we were just sitting there, there was something that just kept resonating with me. I can't even articulate it very well. We're doing everything that has to be done, and that's what makes the art. I don't know why that phrase kept flowing around my brain, but there was, Patreon is an amazing company, and I'm very privileged to work with people that are like pragmatic. They're not business officious bullshit people. They are real human beings, and they're very caring, and they're very self-aware, and they're very considerate. But there's tech, the industry, workspaces will always inherently have this like communication style that's fragmented. You have to present idea gets validated, idea gets double validated, push it through. While some of that does resonate creatively, the fact that the only thing we have to do to make an episode of the show is make an episode of the show.
Yeah.
Just kept sticking with me.
Yeah.
It's like I met someone and we both wanted to write it, so we did.
Yeah.
And then
Lauren rewrote every page.
She made it much better.
And it was great.
Not true at all.
That was actually really nice too. I mean, I took a big hiatus from writing, 3 or 4 years before we did this project. But like, Lauren was very fun editor.
Yeah.
Very lightweight, very pleasant.
Thank you guys. Well, you guys make it very easy because I don't have to edit very much. Yes. And that's been true of all of the writers for these bonus episodes. It's like I will tweak the way that Dr. Bright speaks because she speaks very specifically, and I will tweak things that Betsy, my sister and psychologist, tells me like, yeah, no, actually therapy needs to work this way. But beyond that, like I've had to do very, very little editing in all of these scripts, which has been so wonderful. And to bring people on who are so familiar with the world already is like such a privilege too.
How much do you think how qualified do you think you would be to be a therapist? at this point. I'll give you 6 months additional training.
Not at all.
Not even a little bit closer.
Well, no, I mean, like, first, I could give therapy in the way that, like, Dr. Bright does, in that, like, she knows her stuff, and, like, she's a compassionate person, but she's also, like, a fuck up, you know?
Exactly.
And, like, he's always a good therapist.
Yeah. And you can relate to that.
Yeah, but beyond that, no, I could not give therapy. People are loving the cat. I know, she's so cute. Her name is Diva. How old is she?
She is 6 and a bit.
She's 6 and a bit, and she's perfect.
She's okay. I mean, I like her. She's very, very mean.
She doesn't seem mean. She's snuggled up to me quite a lot, which she's staring at me like she wants to kill me.
Yeah, she heard you say that. She's like a challenge. No, she's very sweet little kitty cat. She's very like not very like considerate, I guess would be the word. Like she will just slice you if you stroke it the wrong way. She doesn't do it to me anymore, but like it took a lot of very careful.
You have to, yeah, that is true. You touch it.
We're both playing. I yield.
Lauren is our Discord pseudotherapist some days. That's fair. I'm happy to fill that role. Yeah, key, doing things to do the things independent of censorship and oversight. And that is, I completely agree. And I do think that is unique to audio fiction specifically.
Yeah.
Because it's like in a TV show, that wouldn't be the case at all. It's like, you guys, if I were the showrunner of the show, you guys would write an episode. I would do a pass on it. Then it would go to the network, and then it would go to the actors and the director, and then come back with tons of notes from that. And then it's like, you know, I'd eventually, like, it would, yeah, eventually get made. But there's so many other things it needs to go through, and some of that stuff is good. I mean, notes are good, but it just takes so much longer, and there's so many other like factors at play. Mm-hmm. But also, I don't want to miss these questions in here. Lindsay asks, Briggon, do you prefer writing or acting? You seem to think like a writer automatically.
Oh, that's such a compliment. I love that, actually. That's tough. This whole last year has been sort of like eye-opening for me, where I love acting, and once you're in that pocket, it's the best feeling in the world. But I really, maybe it's because I like controlling things that's in my mind. So I really love writing. I love the process of putting something in my head down on something, whether it is collaborating with somebody else or by myself. So I think, I always say, I've been saying this to Lauren a lot recently, not Jordan, because I'm not a big fan of his, but mostly I love being a storyteller. So in whatever way that forms itself, whether it's acting, writing, you know, it's what I love. So yeah, not really an answer, but. Do
you approach those things like differently, like in like thinking like a writer? Like do you find that when you're writing, you're thinking like you think as an actor as well? Like are there
I think
similar
so. I think
processes?
you said this when you started writing. Is I think actors are pretty well equipped to be writers, or at least get their feet wet.
Yeah.
Because we deal in dialogue and emotions and human interaction. So I find that in my day-to-day when I'm talking with people, I love speaking. You can find a melody to it, a rhythm, and I actually really love the pattern and rhythm of writing. I like clever. I just think writing that sounds really, really good.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. I think I do approach it as an actor. And I think that's where you came from.
Yeah, and I still approach it as an actor. I mean, like I don't.
You say that you speak as you're writing.
I speak as I'm writing, and I don't write characters that I can't get into their headspace as an actor. You know, because like I think as an actor, in order to play a role, you need to have so much empathy for the character, right? You need to be able to like really understand where they're coming from. I just don't write characters that I can't do that with. Even characters like Wadsworth or Damien, it's like I remember seeing some of the response to the Wadsworth episode of like people, you know, sort of calling her monster, rightfully so, but because I'd been in that headspace, I was like, but I mean, like, she's got, like, some of her ideas are fine. And then I sort of step back and be like, no. Right, but it's like, but you still have to tap into that place, however, you know, whatever way you can.
She got me wrong. She's so well written.
Well, also editing Alex Marshall Brown, it's like you believe everything she tells you. You know, it's amazing.
I'm curious, as like not to stay on this question for too long, though it is a very good question.
Very good question. Thanks, Lindsay.
As people with a love for the acting craft, have you found yourself with some bad practices that maybe an editor or somebody without an acting background has pulled you away from? Like too much specificity in the writing, or maybe not enough, some thing that you as an actor might want that as a practice is actually kind of inconvenient?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a tendency sometimes to like lean into, like as an actor, you want the scenes that are like emotional, and like really like that you sink your teeth into. And I think sometimes as a writer, I find myself writing those things and being like, but these characters aren't gonna have this emotional moment right now because they're humans and they're not actually gonna talk like this to each other. You know, it's like they're gonna talk around the issue and they're not gonna get emotional in this particular circumstance. Sometimes they do. That one, I mean, the one, I don't know if this is an acting thing or just like an audio thing, but I overuse character names in dialogue. Yeah. I use them so much, and people don't actually talk like that. Like I don't say your names when I'm talking to you that often.
No, you don't, Lauren.
It's like a weird thing, you know, but I use it a lot in scripts. How are you?
You're talking about bringing my stepbrother, whom I've lived with for 4 years.
I find I'm learning how to distance the way I talk from characters that I'm writing. Yeah, I find, and it's funny. I listened to Austin for the first time in a while since it came out because I wanted to like prepare. Because you kind of, I mean, I remember it, but you know, it's been a bit. It has not been that long.
Oh no, but I get
listen to it.
It's like a minute.
It does.
But there are vocal patterns in there that I was writing as if I was playing the role, as if I was doing it. Like I noticed, like there were a lot of, I don't know, and a lot of like stuttering and ellipses. Like the writing is a lot of sort of like.
Well, and those were the only things that out of Austin's dialogue that I think I pared down a little bit, and it was because after like a certain point, like in the first season of the Bride Sessions, I started to write Caleb towards your voice. Yeah. And then so in you writing Austin, I was like, oh, he can't be too much like Caleb. Yeah. And it's like, because those things are all like weirdly intertwined.
I was actually very surprised. I was coming off of a Bride Sessions kick when you invited me to the episode. That's partially where a lot of my excitement came from. And then I obviously knew Briggon only via the Bride Sessions. Right. You are one-to-one, Caleb. There's no differences between two of you. Yeah. We were. You're a jock. Yeah. But we were chatting, and like when we were running through, I think it was the third draft when it was just the review, and we were trimming sections that were interesting, but like thematically just didn't really line up.
The dance number was weird.
The dance number was weird. All the racist stuff Briggon put in. But there was, I think I'd written like this soliloquy that was like maybe a paragraph long. It felt like a paragraph chunk, and it had so many breaks. It had so many punctuation indicators. Like, and this is where you'll breathe before saying the next part. Yeah. And it as soon as I removed those, I realized that it wasn't a very interesting soliloquy, and I scrapped like 50% of the monologue because it was only interesting.
You're directing through.
You can just say like your shopping list, and if you pause and push through the words, it sounds dramatic, and then you remove that, it's like. Oh, when I was a kid, I had a bad time. This is interesting.
Well, and like I read a directing book last month or a couple months ago called "Directing Actors" by Judith Weston. Nearly. It's a phenomenal book, and a lot of it like goes through like acting theory and stuff. So a lot of it was like, here's how Stanislavski and Strasberg taught, and it's like so that most of that stuff I kind of skimmed because a lot of directors don't necessarily know acting practice, which is a problem. But there was this exercise in it of when you direct, go through a script and remove all of the parentheticals, like most of the punctuation and all the stage directions, and figure out how to direct the scene that way.
That's great.
And I now do that to my own scripts, and it's changed the way that I write and kind of removing some of those things and not putting as many parentheticals because I realize I'm directing it before I even get to casting.
I need to do that because everything I write would be like 100 pages less. Exactly. It's mostly parenthetical.
I mean, it's so easy to do that when you're an actor because it's like you're kind of you're figuring it out.
Speaking of books, my boy Kevin, who I've been loving by the way, I don't know.
Oh, Kevin's the best.
Kevin, but yeah, I like you very much. He says A+ on my bookshelf, especially The Sculptor. Agreed, Kevin.
Oh, nice. I don't know that book.
It's a graphic novel. I will give it to you.
Great.
Wow, that's a hard one to find, Kev. Wow.
Oh, nice. Oh, you Musicophilia by Oliver Sacks is one of my favorites.
I also bought a music theory 101 because I realized recently that I have all these weird little gaps in my music theory knowledge because it's also YouTube series.
Do you want my Total Theory textbook? I have it still, I'm pretty sure.
Sure.
Great.
Why not?
I don't use it, so.
Scott McCloud, amazing writer and artist, and he made a comic called Comics Explained or something along those lines. I forget what it's called, but it's defining the medium of comics and graphic novels as a graphic novel.
Very cool.
Sick.
Next
question.
Lindsay's in here, and I know she had a couple of other questions that she sent in, so I'd love to get those going. Oh, this is a good one. How did the conversation with the actors go about this episode, especially since intersecting race and mental illness covers so much important ground? We didn't really have a conversation with the actor. No. He just kind of got it.
Yeah.
I was actually curious. I meant to ask on the day, but how common is it that somebody just climatizes the material like that? He didn't seem to. There was like zero friction. There was like 3 words he said weird.
Yeah.
Just because they were weird words.
Yeah.
And then
well, because everybody has 3 words that they say weird. Yeah, so Michael, we found through like traditional casting. Like this is the only thing we've ever gone through like traditional casting for, because we needed somebody very specific, and I didn't know somebody personally who fit that role, who was an actor, and he just got it. Like we didn't meet with him before the recording session, and we just sort of jumped in, did the first take as we always do, just kind of cold, and then we gave him some redirects, but he mostly just. I think it is pretty common with actors who are like professional actors, particularly television actors, I've found.
He felt like a practitioner. This wasn't a hobby or an interest. This was his job. You buy a human to make a sound and motion. Yeah. And he's very good at it.
Well, and literally, it was so funny because the day after we recorded, I was watching. We recorded on a Saturday, and so Sunday night I was watching Insecure.
Oh yeah.
And all of a sudden he just like appears in Insecure on HBO, and I was
and then
like,
disappears because he's invisible.
Exactly. Insecure went a crazy direction. He was like in a scene with Issa Rae and everything. And so I found that, and I found this with Passenger List too, where it's like with TV actors. Like we were able to burn through 40 pages a day with Passenger List because most of the actors we were working with were TV actors, and it's like they show up on the day, they're given oftentimes brand new pages they've never seen before, and they just have to like knock it out of the park. And so like I think that is common, definitely for people who like live and work in LA regularly. But yeah, we didn't really have like a larger conversation about it. He just sort of got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But great question, Lindsay. Another question from Lindsay: did you intend to show Austin dissociating, using the term related to dissociative disorder as part of his power, or do you have a different idea of what it was he was doing?
That's a really good question.
That's a very good question.
I have an answer.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how.
I want to see it. Yeah.
I don't think it was exclusively medical. When I was running through the power set and imagining scenarios, triggers, we'll call them, for Austin's invisibility. For me, there exists a world where Austin's invisibility is completely optional, where he maintains complete control and he can utilize it as much as he wants to. The reason he can't is because he has associated it with a medical condition. He's supplanted that gift objectively as, oh, dang, this is a thing that happens when I disassociate. This is a thing that happens when I have my panic attacks. And really, all of these conditions that he is suffering from are just almost coincidental. Yeah. They're things that he struggles with.
They're correlating, not causating.
Yes. I think that's the perfect way of putting it. Because at one point, I don't even remember when, but I remember I wrote like a portion talking about the first time, and I ended up scrapping. I didn't even send it to you in the draft because it sort of implied that his power was generating this condition. And what I thought was interesting about Austin as a character, and the vast majority of patients in the series, is that they have mental health problems. That's a thing. And many people do. And it's almost a disservice to take those and plant them on the gift itself. Yeah. Right. I can fly, and also I have a lisp. Yeah. And it's like, I don't want to force somebody to tie those together because that kind of devalues it. oh, if only I didn't have this power, I'd just be functional member of society. It's like, no, go to therapy, eat your breakfast, and take a shower. Like, live well, live Mars. # Taco Bell.
Well, yeah. Is that?
No, I'd say, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and I think that is true of like all of the Bright sessions where it's like, yeah, Sam's time travel doesn't cause her to have panic attacks, but the panic attacks cause her to time travel, but the two exist separately from each other. And that's true of I would say, like most of the, like Caleb's anger issues are part and parcel with the fact that he can feel other people's emotions, but also he would have those anger issues even if he wasn't an empath.
Yeah.
Like I think, yeah, it gets increasingly difficult when you dive into somebody like Caleb or like Damien, where it's like so much of their ability involves like things that form who you are, like your emotions or like your relationship with the world around you. Or like one of the episodes we recorded on Sunday, which is Gabrielle Urbina's episode that Zach Valenti's in. It's a really interesting episode that is kind of like the mental health problems that this person is experiencing is tangentially a result of their ability, but only the way in which they're using their ability, not the nature of the ability itself. And it's like, I think that those are important distinctions of like not blaming the condition for like any sort of mental distress, but it either being a crutch or something that drives you into a darker place or whatever it is. It's always something that's hard to balance.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I would guess many people listening have an interest or experience with mental health problems, and I know everybody in this round table has dabbled. To be honest, I think what kept me from really aggressively pursuing treatment the few times that I've discovered a thing and had to take action on it and have either done it slowly or ineffectually is that stigma associated with, well, you have these things, like how happy you are, how sad you are, how angry you are, how tall you are, how hungry you are, that are all just controllable metrics, and that's what a human being is. And then you have this little buddy that sits on your shoulder. It's anxiety. Get off. Like, how do I remove the anxiety?
Right.
And that was my issue with that implication, or anytime I want to imply that, like, okay, I'm Jordan Cope and I'm these 6 sim traits. Then I also have, I got a cold and I've got anxiety and I've got social, or depression, or in my case, ADHD. I only started treating my ADHD maybe a year ago, not even, like 4 or 5 months ago.
Wow. And
it had a huge impact. And looking back on it now, the reason I wasn't medicating was, well, I have to know how to fix it first without medication, and then I'll try the which is just ludicrous.
Well, and I also think that, like, for artists too, like there's this weird thing of like, oh, well, if I fix my ADHD or my depression or my anxiety, I'm like, first of all, like just that sentence is problematic, right? Because you can't fix it, and it's also to be fixed. But if I do that, then I'm not going to be able to make art anymore. I'm not going to be able to I'm not going to be the unique person that I am. And it's like, no, that's still going to be there. You're just going to enjoy your life more.
Yeah.
Like that's all that is.
That whole idea that like you have to be tortured to be an artist.
It's such garbage.
And it also assumes that you're going to be completely untortured following treatment.
Yeah. Right.
You're going to be short of torture. You can always find it. It's always there. It's like around.
Exactly. There's no dearth of sort of difficult things to deal with in life.
You've got a double yup from Lindsay.
Double yup, amazing. Yes, romanticized mental illness in artists is so toxic. Oh, you guys are just the best. I love that we can talk about this kind of stuff. Mental illness as an adolescent affects how you develop, as do the powers in the show, but the characters still exist outside of those things. Yes. Exactly. You guys are just, you're so right.
It's really nice meeting you all. So far, Kev's leading. I really
we don't pick favorites.
Yeah, I do. I really like Kevin. We're going to start our own Discord channel. None of the rest of you. No, you're all saying lovely things. And Key has some fascinating insights. I've just been reading effectively the live tweet stream of Key talking about.
Yes, you can make more art if you're not sleeping 16 hours a day is so. Yes, Nanette has the best sequence on this about Van Gogh, and just Hannah Gadsby is the best. Okay, let's go into our spreadsheet. If you guys have more questions, put them in the chat. There's some sort of clown car honking outside.
Sorry, people ask me where in LA I live. I live inside of every sound. They got every sound together and they put it right here in Pico Union. We have an ice cream van that's here for 2.5 hours every single day.
It was there when I was out there.
That's crazy.
Motherfucker.
Have you bought any ice cream from it yet?
Maybe that's why he's waiting.
He's waiting for you specifically. Okay, this is a question from Christina. That's great. Did you know how meaningful your episode would be to mixed race people? I feel exactly the same way as Austin does about his race, other than being Hispanic instead of Black, and I didn't even know how to voice those feelings until I listened to that episode. Literally had to pause midway through to cry, even though nothing sad was going on. It's really a compliment. That is a question. That's really nice. Thank you, Christina.
It's interesting. I think the way that we approach this is, certainly with like Caleb, that's a character that means so much to me, would have meant so much to me as a kid, and just seeing, talking with James, my fiance, and like everything that he's been through, it just seemed like something that I could actually relate to as a gay man too. Like I haven't had the mixed race experience, but there were definitely some parts like, we talked about this on Sad Boys too, but the idea of the way that I walk or talk, is it because I tried to butch up to hide that I was gay when I was a kid? Like, it was the chicken or the egg thing of like, which I think we even say in this script. So the idea of, does Austin like these certain things because he was trying to fit in, and James and I talked a lot about that. And I remember when we were, when I was on Sad Boys, which I think is your best episode, honestly.
By far. Masculinity. Masculinity, I believe it was the penultimate episode. Forgot to make the show.
But we both sort of like related to that. I know Jarvis for sure. And I think what's so interesting with a lot of these humans, we're different, but we all sort of deal with these same issues in sort of our own little ways. So it was, that stuff wasn't hard to access. And when I was sort of like putting that out, that was more like cathartic, I think, to me, to just put it on the page and for us to do that. So for anybody to connect with it is like amazing.
Yeah.
It was a really remarkable pairing, like premise to people. Like, to this day, I can't imagine a character. I did not come up with Austin.
Right.
And I would have. It's like so, I am a mixed race, half Black, half white kid with the same like parent denomination, who grew up in an all white area. I'm an American citizen. I guess that's the one thing I'm missing. But I also grew up playing the drums, and I grew up thinking that I shouldn't be doing anything. Everything I'm investing in is just the result of like external forces or expectation. And it was funny. I would with zero hesitation, I would call Briggon the lead on that script, because it was your idea and you had the dialect of the Bright Sessions so locked in. You understood how the discourse works, and not only like literally how the script should look, but what it tangibly feels like. You've sat down at the recording booth holding a script, and you know how that would feel tangibly to another artist or another actor. And then I kind of felt like I was like delivering clay initially as like, the artist's working, I gotta get more clay. Like run over and I get clay. And then like a couple of times, like after a day or so, I was like, I can do it. I like little impressions and move stuff around. I was amazed prior to our conversation about why you had so much insight into that, how quickly you adapted to that premise.
Oh,
it was very, you've written a portion that if somebody were to read it and guess, they'd probably think I wrote it. Yeah. It is so specifically insightful. It's a little portion early on about how, well, I am privileged proportionally. That's not the actual phrasing. It's like, well, I grew up in this household and I had these friends that were that way, so I did these things. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, that's correct. That is the right answer.
Yeah.
And so I was not at all surprised that it resonated with people from mixed race backgrounds. I think what I was surprised by, in a similar vein, was the ways that it resonated. I was expecting like finally some representation or a reference, not specifically the Bright Sessions. The Bright Sessions is pretty good for representation.
Although we haven't done any kind of race representation story before.
That's true. You've been waiting.
Yeah.
You saved it for me. But like, I got a lot of messages that day, and I'm not really much of a social media person, but I was for that week because I was getting these tags with the two of us in it, where people would say things like, "I've never heard this particular feeling represented." The most common one being that I'm right to feel that way.
Yeah.
but I'm wrong to feel bad for it. I feel like so many people get in that mindset, and then everybody says, no, come on, you're one of the group, come along now, don't be silly. I can't be racist, I have a black friend. Yeah. And then you settle your brain and you're like, oh, yeah, okay, I guess, yeah. I understand this culture, and I code straight. That's the thing we talked about.
Yeah.
In your case, and like, no, it's still kind of there. Like, you don't actually
those things don't go away. Yeah.
And then somebody will, offer you some fried chicken, and you're like, hey, you were thinking about it, weren't you? I can tell you. On the mind.
Right, because those sort of intrinsic parts of our identities that we can't, like, even if they're not parts of our identities that, like, we feel strongly about and how they shape, like, what we think and feel on a daily basis, the way that we present it's always going to shape, like, those things, right? And it's always going to be a factor in how we go through the world, and it's like we can't ever kind of get away from that, which is a strange thing to interact with. Because sometimes you don't want it to be important, and sometimes you just want to, like, be a person. Yeah. But then like you guys talked about in the script, like, the world tries to put you in this box. Oh, my phone! I can't believe I didn't turn it on silent. That is so unprofessional.
It's Briggon. Shut up.
Stop talking.
So mean. Somebody just said that we're adorable. This imagery is adorable. It's so good.
The little clay, yeah.
Thank you.
Leslie says that really resonated with me when Austin is struggling with these racial stereotypes that are also genuine parts of one's culture, and wondering if you should participate. Yeah, that's a hard thing. But I think anybody with any kind of identity experience, like, all human beings have that. Even straight white cis men have, like, things that they are expected to participate in that, like, maybe they don't want to, and it's a weird thing, or things that are going to be assumed about them that they do actually enjoy, and it's like I totally have gotten, like, have had weird, like, internalized difficulties with, like, I love rom-coms, like, I really genuinely love rom-coms, but it's like, oh, you're that girl that loves rom-coms, it's like, it's a kind of a cliche for, like, chicks, chick flicks and chick lit and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, no, I genuinely do love it. But it's like, I also, like, love the Rocky movies, it's like, people are complex.
That's my favorite chick flick. Him and Apollo meeting.
Oh, such a good meet cute.
Yeah, but that final meet cute where they freeze.
But they beat the shit out of each other. Like, how it happens in love and rom-coms. Kevin, I coded so many different things. I'm not, that when people find out my truth, they're actually like to argue against who I am with me. No, you're not. It's, oh man.
I have a question for the folks. I don't know what the latency is, so apologies if we don't get to the answers right away. But we'll start maybe with you two, and then get to the folks. What is some behavior or self-identification that you code as, or choose to code as, or have chosen to code as, that is not necessarily as innate as your race, your sexuality, your gender identity, but is still a little caustic? You feel it. It hurts from time to time, and maybe you're in the process of getting rid of it. Maybe it's completely active day to day. I'm just curious. Rom-coms is a good one, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I think sort of sometimes, like, I don't know that there's, like, a specific thing that I code as, but I definitely, like, will code switch a lot. I feel like it's especially in regards to, like, femininity, and sort of, like, having those times when it's like you're, like, the guy's girl, and then having those times when it's like, I like being feminine, and I also like being masculine. Like, I like switching through those things, but sometimes depending on the situation, it does feel, like, put upon. And I think, like, one of the sort of, like, it wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but I was at a baby shower. No, it wasn't a baby shower, a wedding shower a couple of years ago. And this was before I was, like, really out as bi to, like, everybody in my life. And it was back east, and so, like, it was this East Coast wedding shower, and I was just like, oh, this is very straight and very feminine in a way that I have not operated in like, a couple of years, because I've been living in LA for a couple of years at that point, and just, like, being who I am. And I was like, I can do this mode. And it's not even that I don't like this mode, but I'm noticing just, like, how sort of, like, heterosexual and female this is. And, like, again, like, not in a bad way. Those aren't bad things, right? But just in the sense that I was like, I'm not used to operating in this narrow scope anymore.
Right, yeah.
Of, like, any sort of, like, aunt type that I would talk to would be like, so, like, do you have a boyfriend? And I'm like, no, like, I'm working really hard, and, like, then really focused on my career. And then it's sort of like, okay. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, I guess that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. Like,
yeah. Working
Yeah.
on your career is the equivalent of friends in the theater.
yeah,
It's a
exactly.
thing you say to your conservative family.
Yes, exactly. How about you, Briggon?
I don't know. It's so tricky because I think the episode of Austin actually reflects the ambiguity in which I feel about how I present to the world and how I really am. Because we talk about this a lot, where I walk into a room and it's assumed maybe right off the bat that I'm a straight white man, and I'm a white man. So with that comes an innate social privilege and unfair hierarchy, whatever you want to call it, that I automatically am perceived as. There's been stuff even online, I'll get every once in a while I'll get shit from some folks, and I'll be like genuinely hurt about it and express it. And I would get ridiculed every once in a while. I'll be like, oh, the poor white guy. He's never had to deal with anything in his life. But I do get the perception and the anger from other people who have maybe dealt with stuff in their life, because, for better or for worse, I can walk into a room and I'm the face of the patriarchy, as it were. And there's a lot of nuances to that, even if I was a straight white male. But a lot of people don't know the self-loathing, the hurt, the difficulty I have, where I look back and genuinely these things of wondering if I am the way I am because I forced myself to be that way just as a survival tactic growing up, or not. It's sort of my own weird identity crisis. So I think that's what I've struggled with is just being expected, because I'm a white dude, that I don't hurt and that I just sort of brush stuff off, because guess what? I'm ruling the world. And it's but to some extent I am.
Sure.
So it's this weird relationship I have with being 2/3 privilege.
Right. Well, it's everybody has privilege, and everybody has aspects of their identity that are oppressed and things like that. And it's but regardless of those little boxes that you check or whatever, do you guys watch Crazy Ex-Girlfriend?
Yeah, first season.
Okay, so in I think it's the second or third season, there's this really goofy sequence called a song called "Fit Hot Guys Have Problems Too," and it's these 3 hot guys dancing.
And they're sad, crying,
and they're
shirts
crying,
off,
and they're don't objectify us, because we also hurt, and it's goofy but also true.
Yeah,
and it's sometimes it's very, especially in Los Angeles and with social media, it's very easy to be oh, that person is successful and gorgeous and privileged, and so they have no emotional problems ever.
Yeah.
It's no, of course they do. How's the chat going?
We got some good answers.
Oh yeah, we got some really good ones.
I believe it was Lindsay that had some. There's 2 Lindsays.
There are 2 Lindsays.
Yeah. Further up, there was a reference that kind of reflected your note on coded femininity and coded heterosexuality. Somebody was talking about how.
Lindsay saying, "I wear makeup to feel like I don't stand out at work as someone that might not belong." Is that what you mean? Yeah, totally. Of softening yourself so that when you oh my God. Don't even get me started on the amount of times in my life I've been called intimidating. I've been called intimidating by more people than I've been called anything else. And it's just no, I'm just assertive. I'm just an assertive woman. Well, that's what it means.
That's the good thing about terms intimidating is it's not quite the same as a term aggressive or a term loud or forward, because intimidating is a perceived trait.
Exactly. It's on the person to some extent.
I am feeling intimidated.
If I'm a white kid from the suburbs and I go into the ghetto and I call it scary, it's not the ghetto's fault.
Right.
The ghetto, you were scared by it.
Exactly.
Unless it has ghosts, then it's.
Oh,
true.
sorry.
It has
The ghosto.
The ghosto. I sometimes code as extra disabled just to try and get the public to believe me. I'll bring my cane with me as almost a way to prove my invisible disability. Oh my God.
That's a really good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that you have to do that, Lindsay, because that sucks.
Do you 2 have any of those for mental health conditions? Do you have ways of indicate ways of dressing on a down day or something like that? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, headphones are a huge one for me. When I'm just grocery shopping and stuff, and wearing like hoodies, like definitely kind of like trying to hide from the world when I want to just like go and do my errands and not actually get into a like conversation with a stranger.
And also speak, look, you don't want to talk to me.
Exactly.
I'm wearing, you know, these clothes that aren't inviting because I'm not inviting you.
And also just my face always when I'm just like going about my day is just like always like fuck off written on my forehead. And I think that's like part of just like being a New Yorker raised by two New Yorkers.
Yeah.
It's a little intimidating.
It's a little intimidating. Well, yeah.
It worked. Like we joke that like it's really funny. Like my mother, you know my mother. But she says hi, by the way. Both of you.
Now I know your mother.
She is, and she might be watching this because I just got off the phone with her before I came here. She is the warmest, most like empathetic human who like genuinely cares for each person on earth in a way that is truly beautiful, but that makes her completely susceptible to like strangers on the street coming up to her and like asking for things or telling her things or telling her their entire life stories. And it's like, I found that when I move through like a busy city by myself, no one talks to me. If I'm with my mom or like a couple other friends I have that are very open, empathetic people talk to me. And it's like, it's because I think there is like a sort of energy that you can give off that will either say like, I'm open to the world. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I just don't operate like that.
Yeah.
And so I think that I very much operate as like a don't approach, you know, unless I'm like prepared to be approached. If that makes sense.
I go on the offense.
Really?
Like I literally go in the extreme and put myself out there. I'm like, oh, tell me things and tell me about your things, but don't question me. And if you ask me something, I'm gonna flip it to you again. And, which isn't always. No, it isn't always. It always is not healthy because I'm not giving myself a break.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and like I think in socializing, like if I'm walking into a situation where I know I'm talking to people, like that's a completely different thing. Where I think I overcompensate with like. Yeah. Being very warm and asking things questions, and I am interested in people, but it's like, it can be a deflection tactic.
Sorry, I'm just reading all these answers. We don't have time to go through all of them. But
You can read, Jordan.
look at all these small glyphs. I understand every glyph here. Cow moved. These are all really good.
Yeah.
These are great. Yeah.
Hoodies
in the headphones and flannel. Yes, absolutely. Keeping your head down and texting for
Oh,
sure.
there was actually one up here.
Let's make
from
up. Yeah.
Leslie C. I struggle with speech patterns. I'm naturally well spoken, but with other POCs, I have to deal with the speaking white comments and the weird "you're so articulate" comments from white folks.
Oh.
Yeah, that's some whack shit.
I feel like you and Jarvis have also spoken about that before, where like
in very articulate ways.
Yeah, you're intimidating me.
And it's like and that's something I've heard from so many of my friends who are people of color, of white people saying you're so articulate. And like I remember the first time I heard that, I was like I grew up around some racist white people, but like oh my god, like that's so oh god.
To a lot of like this? I grew up in the countryside in the UK, so as you can imagine, in an entirely white town. I was like one of 10 people of color in a town of 10,000, and they. I'm not trying to normalize, and I'm not trying to give them any points. But so often when they would say this stupid shit, it sincerely is coming from a place of like, well, I'm being nice.
Yeah.
My dad wouldn't talk to you at all.
Yeah. Oh, God.
So when I say
so this is an improvement.
You congratulations on getting into college. I'm just surprised and proud of you, stranger.
Oh, brother.
It is legitimate, and the speech pattern thing aligns with me in two different ways actually. Because in the UK, the thing about the UK, I grew up in a white town, so what the fuck do I know? But like my perception of black culture in the UK has always just been, at least for my lifetime, disseminated American black culture. The jokes people would make would be about black people in America. It would be African American references. There was no black culture in Middle England. It's just like there's black people, and the last I heard of them, they're on TV in America. So there you go. But then the sort of the speech issue there was like, you don't sound black, which either meant like South or East London or maybe Central London, or American. Those are like the two things. And so like I remember as a joke when I used to lean into this kind of thing, when I was incredibly insecure, and like now, of course, when I'm a fully balanced person that never gets any anxiety, I used to do like an American black accent. It was like a joke that I would do. And that was like, I'm in on it too. Please let me come to the party.
Oh my goodness.
God, but that's so true. Like, have you ever leaned into something that you've coded or anything? Because I would make gay jokes and lisps all the time as that sort of defense mechanism. Of, she's like, I get it. So you can't make fun of me because I did it first.
It got stupid.
Yeah.
When I first went to college, I went to a college where a bunch of people from my hometown were coincidentally going. And I used to go to parties, and people would be like, "Oh, hey, I heard you're the guy that does like racial humor," or like you always do race
What a
jokes,
weird
right?
opener for conversation.
Right. Yeah, there were these three dudes. I didn't really like them. We never got along very well. But their perception of me was that the first thing, and I did do this. The first thing I would do when I would meet a new person was like try and goat them into saying the N-word or something. Like it would really just be a like, okay, we have to acknowledge this here because you've never met a person of color, and I refuse to get the like conciliatory. I voted for Obama 5 times. You know, that kind of, this was in 2010, so I was like, yeah, he's
I'm gonna go for Obama.
he's still president. That whole thing was so prevalent that I think 15 through 17, I was just opening conversations with it. It's like, I'm going to call it out and just, I'm like the cool guy, I'm cool girl, you know?
Is there something, well, right, and I feel like I've definitely done things like that.
Hang with the boys, girl, kind of,
I'll go to the strip club and I'll say the N-word for your amusement.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think for me personally, it's like so much of that, of like, there was sort of this like weird divided brain, right, of like wanting to like be the cool girl or whatever, and like doing those jokes to just like protect yourself and to kind of acknowledge things first, but then also like at the same time, like I do find other women attractive because I'm bisexual, and so it's like, in like, not that I objectify women, but it's like a lot of like guys commenting on other women. I'd be like, yeah, I agree with you, but like I also take issue with the way that you're complimenting this woman, because it's like this weird dual.
Did you ever find yourself, because I remember guys in school would make the joke of like, oh, make me a sandwich or all that, like really intense. But as a girl who hung with the dudes or anything like that, did you find yourself excusing that, leaning into it, or? So
I hung with a type of dude.
Oh.
I never hung with those dudes. Yeah. Those dudes were.
They're so fun.
They're great.
You should hang with them.
Yeah.
There's no shortage of them.
Yeah.
I don't want to say.
Yeah.
I don't
like wearing red hats now.
I don't want to say that Caleb Adams. I don't want to say that Caleb Adams bullies in the Caleb and Adam book are directly based on people I knew in high school, but I did get about halfway through the book before realizing that one of them literally shares the same name as one of the boys in high school. Yep. And I was like, nope, keep it in there. It's a first name. It's just a first name. But I'm like,
this is the greatest thing that they're ever going to achieve.
Yeah, a little insider scoop. But no, most of the guys that I would hang out with, it was the thing of like feigning interest in like Halo. You know, it's like, I like video games. And so it's like, there wasn't like a lack of interest there. My trackpad is fucked.
Learn how to compute.
But like, I don't think Halo is actually that fun of a video game. But like, kind of playing like those types of things or whatever. It's like that. There was a degree of just kind of like going along with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, anytime somebody would make like a go make a sandwich reference, it's like, then I would turn quickly.
Yeah. That's a nice indicator. That it was the red cap of its day. It saves you time.
It really does. It really saves you so much time. All right, we only have a couple minutes left, so I want to make sure we like tap into the questions that people who maybe couldn't tune in. Oh, this is a great one. Actually, let's end with that one because that's a fun one. Let's see. Oh, okay. This is an interesting question. Kind of not unrelated to what we've been talking about. From Troy, Austin had trouble fitting in and staying visible. Have you ever fit in so much that you were invisible because everyone was just like you? Do you think that's a different feeling? This is such an interesting question.
Do you want to run a bonus episode? That's like a really good premise.
That's it. Yeah, I don't know.
I have never. I don't think in a meaningful way. I don't think I've ever felt that. I've always felt apart a bit. Growing up, I always felt different. I remember like when I like pulled a hamstring, I was on crutches for like 2 months at one point in middle school, and I had these metal crutches. And I remember crying to my parents because they weren't wooden crutches that everyone else had, and it made me feel even like just another thing, because I was still closeted at the time, wasn't telling them, but you know, I was putting up red flags. It's just like just another thing that makes me so different from everyone.
Also, everyone had wooden crutches.
Yeah.
What kind of Maine? Okay,
it's Maine. We also had like oil lamps that were attached.
Yeah, I was growing up in the 17th century.
But also, but I'd say the one time that I feel like everyone else is when I'm writing in a coffee shop, because LA, you look around and everyone's got a beanie. I'm writing the next great screenplay.
Yeah, there are definitely times in which I feel like I look around and I'm like, I mean, just you audition for long enough, and you go into the waiting room, and you literally are sitting in a waiting room with people that look just like you.
Scrawny, pasty white dudes. You're like, cool, it's me.
Just like white Irish looking brunette girls. But I think even with that, it's like my crippling social anxiety has always kept me kind of like apart. How about you, Jordan?
I have an answer, but I think this random thought, and I want to see if it resonates with Briggon at all. While it's not like a one-to-one with Austin, where when he feels comfortable and secure and safe, that's what allows him to activate his power. But I did always interpret that as what would be his controllable trigger. I imagine, you know, the universe of where he's a fully functional adult and he's fighting crime or whatever. You know, fully functional. In my mind, it really did operate in a, well, I know where I am, I know who I am, I know who I am, I know where I am. That was the same forward. I know, you know, just so much self-actualization that he would blend with the environment rather than flee from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that came up because my example of it was actually quite recent. I never felt like that at all. I always felt like I was way too big a red flag out of the world, a brown flag. And then, similar to your story about the brown crutches, I would so often be doing things or be unable to do things. I won't bore people with the details now, but I have a medical condition that I grew up, which is a tissue disease that I still have, but it's a lot easier to deal with these days. And I used to be going to a lot of doctor's appointments, so I'd miss a lot of school days, and I would wear like weird shoe inserts, and I would wear like weird braces, not on my teeth, obviously, but like on my like legs and arms. And it got to the point where I was like taking it off when I would get to school, just so my mum thought I was wearing them, and I would get home and I would be my hands would be so sore. I couldn't play video games, and I was like, okay, fuck it.
It's worth it.
I'll wear them. Lauren's going around. We're going to play Halo. She loves it.
She loves Halo.
Yeah, but more recently, the time where I have officially felt kind of invisible in a way that makes me comfortable and concerned is I think I established a brand for myself in America, in San Francisco specifically. The friends that I've made there, having finished college and having put the final pieces into current adult Jordan, came in, and my mission was to be like a more considerate person and to be less aggressive and intimidating. And I used to be a lot less sincere. Don't get me wrong, I still say, you know, silly things here and there, but I used to find it very hard to connect with people emotionally consistently. And once I came here, once I became that guy, once I became like the gentle, the likable, the comfortable, I suddenly realized that I was like very quiet in group hangouts, and that was never the thing. I was always too loud. I was always dominating the conversation at parties and stuff. I would rather the latter. I would prefer not to be the biggest thing in the room. But like it felt a little weird with my first few months at Patreon, because I moved and worked there immediately. I moved for the job. I'd just be sitting at lunch, and we'd be hanging out, and people would be talking about their lives and making good jokes. And I'd be like, I'm just excited to be here. Which is weird. That's
wild. Yeah, because you are a big presence. Like you're never like a dominating in a bad way presence, but it's like you are like, I don't know, when I first met you, I was like, oh, this is somebody who's very, sincere and very comfortable in who they are. I think sincerity is like a thing that because I don't think teenagers at all are sincere. That's maybe unfair.
That's like the last part of your cortex that builds.
I think that the teenagers have so much sincerity, and I think that the world punishes them for expressing it. That's really what I mean to say. Is that it's very hard to be that vulnerable when you're young, because people will just, you know, stab your exposed underbelly very quickly. But it's something that I realized as I've gotten older is like a thing that I value so much. Like I don't have time for insincere people. Like, why bother? Why bother? Okay, we only have a couple more minutes. Thank you guys so much for sharing so much in this chat. It's been so wonderful to read. We haven't been able to read out loud all the stuff, but
thanks for coming.
Thank you for coming. Okay, we've got 2 final questions that are kind of similar. One is from Christina. What was your favorite thing about Caleb as a character and about voicing Caleb?
This is for me.
Tell us. Favorite thing about Caleb. Or say that again.
Favorite thing about Caleb as a character and about voicing Caleb.
I loved. I mean, it goes to what you did with Caleb's power and who he is, and what you did with Alice as well. Where I really enjoy the 180 and expectation of who this person would be. I love the idea of like a gentle giant or someone who's, as a stereotype, is known to repress feelings or be an aggressive. I mean, Caleb, deals with
aggression problems, yeah.
Exactly, but it's never in that sort of like
posturing.
Yeah, exactly. Like he would
sincere aggression.
He would crumple himself or deflate himself for the betterment of a person to make another person feel better, as opposed to puff up a chest sort of thing. And I really loved that part of him. And voicing Caleb, I mean, I'll say this a million more times. I love him to death. I mean, I love everything about him, and I think the good parts that in me are there, and he's like a perfect. We talked about Damon from his Dark Materials, or
Demons,
or like a Patronus. He's this sort of like extension of all the things, like an embodiment of all the things that I can recognize that are good in me, that I wish there was more over, that I really treasure. So not to give him like that Snow White complex, because he's got his issues and everything for sure, but that's just been a beautiful part of it.
All right, final question. This was from Slother. What is your favorite thing about Austin?
Oh, that's fun.
It's a good finisher question.
We percolate while you answer.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to just be you guys.
Contact with and we both got it.
Oh man, this is gonna sound like such a standard answer from me. Just because like I like vulnerable men, but I like how vulnerable he allows himself to be, even when it's like prickly and uncomfortable. Like he still kind of is willing to go there. I think he's like willing to like be in therapy in a way that I find really nice. I also love that he calls Dr. Bright DB. I love that. That's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, that's fun.
That just made me think. I like to think that if he wasn't dealing with everything that he was dealing with, and he wasn't so much of a shy person to some extent, he has this mischievous, wise-ass quality to him that I feel like if had gone unchecked with all these other sort of things, he could have been an absolute asshole. Like totally. Because there are moments in there where he's this very sweet, gentle person, but he's got these sort of like little
edge of snark.
Yeah, I love the snark with him. So that was
especially near the end.
Yeah.
After the time skip, he's back. He's just regular Austin. He's got the dialogue rolling. There's like a tennis back and forth. That's really fun.
Yeah. How many good? Bring us home.
Oh, Jesus. I really like how, and this is, I guess, more of a meta thing about the place that Austin is in emotionally. Less a trait of his, more the part of his journey that's on that I like in fictional characters in general. I think the most interesting time to tell any story about anyone is when they are 60% along a journey. When they are far enough to feel confident that they can do their best and showcase everything they have, but far enough away that they have flaws you can exploit and explore thematically. And that's exactly where Austin is. Austin is like, there's a version of Austin to me at age like 10, where independent of his abilities, he is just insecure. He's insecure that he does not belong in his environment, that he can't properly articulate why, he just knows it's wrong. And that is just so miserable that it would not be nearly as interesting. It's so scary and hard to dive into and hard to explore that that's not an interesting story. But this version, where he's a genuinely talented musician and he is at college, and there's a couple awkward things that will happen at college, but he's there and he's grinding on it and he's exploring these avenues and choosing to go to therapy and choosing to go to therapy consistently too. There's a throwaway line near the end that we wrote like 5 versions of how he would sign off. Of like, do we say, "Oh, I'll see you next time. Catch you later"? How do we like imply that he's going to go again, and he's been a dozen times? You know, that whole thing. And there's something about that whole exchange after the time skip where I'm just like, okay, this is me. This is where I'm at in my life. I suppose to truncate that very rambly answer, my favorite thing about Austin would be that he is so much like me. I find him so relatable. He is at a point in his life where he's very excited for the next phase, but he is also constantly concerned about the past and the present.
That's very relatable.
He's a very three-dimensional person to the point where there are aspects that I intuitively feel like we know about Austin that are never explicitly stated. Yeah,
for sure. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you guys so much for being down to do this. This is so fun. It's always good to talk to you guys about this stuff. And tune in. There'll be another live stream at the end of this month where I'm going to talk about my writing process, and the post for that will be up next week, so you can start thinking about your questions now. And just thank you so much for supporting us. It means the world. And I will catch you guys in the Discord. Bye.
Yes.